Concussion's a funny thing. Not funny, but very interesting. I've lost some time myself.
Mhm.
So I think the worst concussion I had actually isn't from MMA. I got jumped when I was like 12 years old. Like I was walking home one night and I live in a rough neighborhood and I'm like 12 years old and I was a wild kid. You know, my nickname's Manimal. So at 42, think about how wild I am. I only was more wild, not less.
I love it.
I'm walking home, 12 years old, and I'm walking past this corner, and there's a bunch of kids on the corner, and they're like, go the other way. This is our corner. And at 12, this is what I say. Man, fuck your corner. First thing, boom. I go to hit the dude. No, his boy was right behind me. Cracks me with a pipe. Boom. Cracks my jaw. I'm fucking out. Right. When I come to, I don't know how much longer, but I remember I'm on the floor and they're jumping me, right? Beating the shit out of me. And I grabbed the dude's leg and I actually single legged him. And I started running. And I lost consciousness again, but I must have been moving because when I came to consciousness again, I was about 15 minutes away in another neighborhood. I was in a neighborhood called Flatlands. I'm in Canarsie. So I'm in 114 Park, a totally different place than when I got into the fight. And I'm like, fuck, how'd I get here? So I'm walking around and it's like 3 in the morning. I'm 12 years old. This is so crazy. And I run into 2 of my friends. And I was like, oh man, guys, good to see you here. They're like, what the fuck are you doing here? You don't live here. It's late. I was like, listen, some shit happened. Can you take me home? And they were like, yeah, sure. You don't know how to get home? I was like, dude, I got fucked up. I don't know how to get home. And they're like, all right, sure. So they start walking me home. You know, it's a 15, 20-minute walk. And I'm like, yo, what day is today? And they're like, August 27th. I was like, fuck, what time is it? And actually, no, it wasn't 3 in the morning. It was 11:16. And I was like, oh, fuck. Yo, what day is today? The whole time, every few seconds, I'm asking them, what day is it? When I get home, I can't piece the night together because I lost that whole day after that. But I think my pop and my brother went to go fuck those dudes up, but nothing happened. I was all fucked up. And I remember waking up the next day and I kind of remember some stuff, but I don't really remember getting conscious again till like 3 days later. My jaw's all fucked up. Hold on. Where's my speaker on this? Can you hear that? The jaw still clicks.
One more time.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's not coming through on my audio, but maybe it will. Yeah, that's crazy.
If you're next to me, you can hear it, but it's still, it's clicky. But it's been fine. So yeah, and that I lost a lot of time as a kid. You know, that one. I've had some minor ones fighting. You know, I've lost some time here and there. What happened with your concussion?
Well, I'm going to jump into that in just one quick second. I just want to say, like, let's just dive right in. Welcome to the Warriors Raised podcast. Thank you for being my guest. That was like you already answered my first question, I'm pretty sure. So I was like, best info ever. It's an honor to have you here, John Beneduce. Welcome.
Oh, thanks. I'm happy to be on the podcast. I do love talking since obviously I started talking before we even introduced the show.
No, that's perfect. That was the best.
Is that what you were going to talk about? Concussions?
Pardon me?
Is that what the first thing you're going to ask me about concussions? Since I'm
no, actually, and it might not be the answer to my question. But one of my first questions for you was what led you to MMA or training MMA? When was the moment you knew you were going to be a pro fighter?
This is good, actually. This is a good. So, I was always scrappy, but I didn't train because I was a fat kid. So I competed at like between 145 when I fought MMA and then maybe 170 when I grapple. When I was like in high school, when I graduated high school, I was 265 pounds. I failed gym class every year. So I'm not an athlete. I was scrappy because I grew up in a tough hood, but I didn't like to train or work out or none of that. You know, although I was interested, I always loved like warrior shit. But I didn't like to train. I failed gym class every year. I wouldn't run. I went to Brooklyn Tech, and in Brooklyn Tech, they had a standard for everything. It's a specialized high school. And to graduate to every gym class, you had to run a mile in like 8 minutes and 34 seconds, which to me now, I'm like, I'm so stupid. I should have just fucking passed it. But I did night school, and the night school got me experience too. So it was good that it happened that way. And I would never think that I'd be at 42. I'm still a pro athlete. I competed in combat jiu-jitsu in September, which is pro. So I'm still a pro athlete at 42, and I would have never thought that. So I was 265 when I graduated high school. When I went to college, maybe I started training when I was like 19, 20. I got a funny one. Okay. Is this a G-rated podcast?
You can say anything you want to say on here. Absolutely.
So listen, I think you can understand where I'm coming from when I explained to you how hard it was to videotape you having sex 25 years ago. You had to get a VHS tape. Okay. You had to get a camcorder. This shit was not like put your cell phone on and be like, hey, what's up? It wasn't OnlyFans. You really needed to invest some money if you wanted to see yourself have sex. So I was like 265 at the time, and I'm going out with a big girl at the time too, even though I fluctuated even when I was fat all over. But this girl happened to be big too. And, I set everything up, we videotape, boom, go through the whole tape, right? Fill the tape. Nice. All right, boom. And when I watched it back, it fucking was like, oh, I was like, it's like two hogs fucking. What I thought was the hottest shit ever was gross as fuck. I was like, I gotta get my shit together. I gotta lose weight. So the first thing I was like, I gotta lose weight. I was like, this shit doesn't look right. I was like, man, this is not how I envisioned myself. This is not what I'm looking for here. So I started to lose weight, and I lost about probably 30 pounds in, a couple months of working out. And I used to run a hardware store with my dad, with my family. And I had a kid working for me at the hardware store, this kid, Philip Nova. You a UFC fan from back in the day?
I'm a UFC fan, but really recent UFC fan.
So he was the Ultimate Fight. He was on the Ultimate Fighter in 2008.
Okay.
But I met this kid when he's 16. This is before all that. He's 16. And he's like a stock boy for me, right? It's like his first job, right? Stock boy. And we're chilling, bullshitting. At the time, I wasn't much older than him, right? So he's 16, I'm 19, right? I don't think I had turned 20 yet. I think it was like December. So I'm 19, he's 16. We're bullshitting. And we start talking about fighting. And he was like, I would kick your ass. And he was like a $130, skinny Filipino kid. I was like, dude, I will whoop your ass right now. And he was like, no, I'm telling you, I like train martial arts since I'm 8 years old. So kid's been training 8 years, right? I was like, I don't give a fuck. I was like, we can fight right now. And he's like, no. Why don't you? Because I've always been scrappy. Even after that, didn't deter me from being an asshole. Praise Odin. Oh, what a hard head I got. Fucking, hard-headed in a, not that way, in a way like I'm stubborn as fuck. So he's like, no. Why don't you come to my gym? I was like, yeah, I'll come to your gym. I was like, gym's not really my thing, but are we going to fight there? He's like, yeah, we'll spar. I was like, oh yeah, I know sparring. I watch Rocky and shit. Yeah, we'll spar. I was like, could we grapple too? Because I always like to grapple. I remember even as a kid, the fights I was in that I did well in, I always favored grappling. Plus I was big. So once I took a guy down and you're 265, I was fucking guys up, even not knowing shit, just like watching old UFCs.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So I go and I was like, what do you want me to tell the guy? He's like, tell him you want to spar. I was like, okay. So I go up, meet this old school Kung Fu guy, Ralph Mitchell. Old school, like, fought in the 70s in Taiwan. This guy was hardcore as fuck. And he's like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm friends with Felipe. He told me to come here to spar. He was like, oh, you train? I was like, no. I was like, no, I just want to spar. I want to fight Felipe. He laughs. He's like, all right. He's like, whatever. He's like, all right, come do class. Fuck it. This class was ridiculous. It was a 2.5-hour class. This guy only taught 3 times a week. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. 2.5-hour class above the movie theater. So first half hour is jump rope. I'm like, I never jumped rope. I'm not a girl. Like, what the fuck are you making me do? I fall over the jump rope, literally. I wish there was video for it because it was terrible. Half hour of this shit. I'm throwing up. I'm like, all right, next. 20 minutes of conditioning. The fuck are you doing? Burpees, push-ups, squat. Now I'm already dead at this point. Then he's like, now we spar. Oh, now we spar. All right. So I get my ass kicked. This guy Nardu side kicks me, and it was a wood floor. Side kicks me across the wood floor. I slide my fat ass all over the place. I'm like, man, fucking, I'm tired. I'm throwing up. And we do that for about 45 minutes. And then they're like, now we grapple. Oh, this is what I've been waiting for, though. I've been wanting to grapple. I got some water. I chilled out while they put the mats on the hardwood floor. All right. I grapple with Felipe. Felipe catches me in a triangle choke. Boom. Fuck. All right. Let's go again. Right. We got a 5-minute round. I fucking catch him in a guillotine choke. Boom. Fucking he taps. They're like, where the fuck you learn that? I was like, I watch a lot of UFCs, I told you. So class is over. I talked to her. He's like, what do you want to do? I was like, you know what? I kind of like this. I was like, I think I want to be a pro fighter. He was like, you suck. I was like, it can't get worse. This is the bottom. I was like, it's not going to get worse than this. He's like, whatever. Right? This guy's been around 40 years in the martial arts. How many guys tell you that? 40 years, right? You've been around. How many people, Veronica, how long you been training in martial arts?
2 years.
Other martial arts too, no?
No, like I took my first class like 3 years ago, and then everything shut down. And then
even in 2 years, how many people have you seen start and?
Oh yeah, it's very, like, I train with a very tight-knit group, and the people who are there consistently 5 days a week training are the people who have consistently been there these last 2 years. Like, people come and grow, it grows, but a lot of people come and like never come back, or they come for a little bit and then they phase out. So yeah, definitely it's not for everyone.
So now you got this fat kid telling you with a black eye who just threw up in the bathroom, like, yeah, looked like an idiot for 2 hours of class, right? You think about, imagine I came to your class,
yeah,
way fat, overweight. I roll. I spend half the time throwing up. Okay. And then after class, like, what do you want to do? I'm going to fucking be a pro. The person that is actually in good shape can't stick with it. So 4 years later, I lost like 100 something pounds. My first fight was at 155, my first pro fight. So I had a ton of amateur stuff. Right away, we started competing. Like, once I got into it, I was into it. So once I started training, I went to those 3 days a week for like 6 months, and I got, started getting shape. And then Matt Serra opened up a jiu-jitsu school in Valley Stream, which is close to where I live in Brooklyn. And Felipe was going out there, Felipe. So he was like, I know you like to grapple. Come with me there. And I was like, oh, I love jiu-jitsu. So every day they were open, we would go out there. So then we were training 6 days a week.
Nice.
Then I realized that Matt Serra and Rodrigo Gracie, who ran the school in Valley Stream, they were like, oh, we teach noon in Manhattan. And I was like, oh, I go to John Jay College in the city. I was like, you know what? I made my schedule, so I had a gap from like 11 to 3. And I would go hit their noon class. And we got good, and here's the punchline, why I was so happy when you asked, even though it's probably a question I get asked a lot. But what makes me so happy about the question is that this morning, today, I went to Henzo Gracie, Brooklyn, this morning. And who did I train with? Felipe.
No way.
2 fucking years. After 22 years of being in the martial arts, right? I trained with the same guy this morning, and we had a fantastic match. We had a great round, good exchange of technique, and I'm just so grateful to be able to say that. How many people could say, I got a guy, and I'm not saying me and him train every day because our lives are different than they were when we were kids, but once a week, once every other week, me and Philippe, 22 years later, still get a Gary training in. What a fucking lesson. And that kid fought in the UFC, and now he's a nurse. That's his like regular gig. And even Dana White gave him props during COVID. The beginning, when it was the Wild West, he works at Lutheran Hospital, which was one of the like biggest places to take everyone. And Dana White even shouted him out. Still, he was like, man, because he has a special. He's like a specialist in some shit that's really important. I couldn't tell you what. I'm more into homeopathy than allopathy.
Yes.
So I couldn't tell you.
I feel like a big proponent of homeopathy.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think my boy Felipe actually does a good job of doing both.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good at doing the allopathy because he's a nurse, right? And then pretty good at doing some homeopathy and keeping it basic.
Cool. I love it.
Oh, that was good. That's going to be a good clip.
I love hearing that you.
Okay, I do have a documentary coming out. I don't know, can I promote that? We're starting. I'm going to put the first clip up today. But you know what? I'm in such a different place in my life than the clip that I'm going to put up. So it's tough. It's actually tough for me to watch the lowest points of my own life.
Oh, yeah.
Because then I'm like, because what it shows isn't actually even anything, but it makes you think about actually everything that happened. Because you really can't show everything unless you were doing it then. There's certain things can never be recreated after the fact.
No. So this actually.
Talking about.
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, another question that I have for you, and I'm kind of jumping around right now all over in my questions, but if you could go back to being like 16, say, or being a teenager, is there anything you would do differently? And if so, what would you do differently?
That's a hard question on both ends. So the stoic answer would be like, you don't want to change a fucking thing, right? Everything made you the person you are. However, I will tell you this. I would have meddled with myself, yes, because that's the way I am. So if I could go back and give myself advice, I would have kept it simple. And I would have just been like, slow down. The speed you're going, whatever it is, I want you once you're going, 15% less. Boom. And it would have saved me from a lot of problems that I had in my life. Just go a little slower. However, I can't want to exactly take back catastrophe because it brought me. Okay, so I'm a very spiritual person. I closely follow the Viking god Odin, very closely. If you look at my stuff, you see I praise him always, which I promised. I made an oath for when I came back and won at Madison Square Garden for Bellator.
Okay.
39. I wasn't 40 yet. Let me not overestimate. So my first martial arts career was from 2003 to 2007, 2008. That was with like Philippe and them. And that was my first like pro fights. I had 4 pro fights. Then I wound up hurting my shoulder. And I had 2 shoulder surgeries on it. It took me 2 years to recover from it. By the time I recovered, I was coaching more, right? So I started coaching more. And then when I was coaching more, I opened the gym in 2012. And I opened the CrossFit gym because how I rehabbed my shoulder actually was by doing the CrossFit movements. Actually, if you don't do them for speed, they're very good for you. Mm-hmm. If you don't put the clock on, CrossFit is actually great for strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
So that got my shoulder pretty good. And I was like, oh, you know what? I always like training. When I was coaching, listen, you get more personal training clients than you do jiu-jitsu clients. Right? So I opened a gym. I had a gym for 5 years, and that didn't work out. I had a bunch of issues that caused me to go into bankruptcy, both personal and business. What a fucking hit that is. You talk about getting knocked out. It really feels worse. I've been knocked out before, and I've had to be in front of 10,000 people on the losing end. And it doesn't, and bankruptcy feels worse because when you have to settle up at your bankruptcy, you got to go to court. And then they're like, oh, why did this happen? Why? I fucking zigged when I should have zagged. What am I supposed to tell you, right? I didn't work out as planned. Okay. Things got messed up. So I go through this bankruptcy. I lose the gym. I had a bunch of issues. And then even when you go through bankruptcy, a lot of debt sticks with you. Tax debt. So even bankrupt, I had 40 grand in tax debt that I still owed, right? That doesn't get absolved. And I already spent everything. I probably lost, I don't know, close to the mill, you know, close to it. That's why I tell everyone in business, I was like, if you haven't lost over $1 million, I don't even want to hear you. Like, fuck, you never adventured then, you know? So
Yeah.
whatever. So that put me in a bad spot.
Mhm.
I was homeless for a little bit. We lived in the back of the gym till the gym went bankrupt in August. And then luckily the universe let me eat a little space. My parents have a house in Brooklyn and it was all rented, the basement included. That's why I was sleeping in the back of the gym. And the guy who was in the basement stopped paying rent and then called the building department, which made them kick him out.
No way.
So it was, hey, listen, it was better than living. Actually, it felt worse to live in the basement than the back of the gym. The car felt better, but whatever.
Yeah.
That feels the lowest.
It's an interesting parallel to, like, you said I love the parallel that you drew of like of it being so much worse than getting knocked out in front of 10,000 people, or that moment. And
It still
also,
sticks with me. It's still there.
yeah,
If I meet someone new, or if I go to buy a car, let's say, the guy isn't like, oh man, I saw you get knocked out. But you know what? They're like, listen, you have a bankruptcy, even though it's 6 years old, it doesn't look good. I'm like, you motherfuckers. I'm like, you motherfuckers. You really want to stick that with me? I'm like, all right. So yeah, I felt low. And from that low, listen, I don't really want to talk about suicide right now because it's even hard just for me to put the clip up. But listen, you think about it and get close to doing it. And luckily I didn't. Odin stayed in my hand. He said, am I the god of warriors or the god of merchants? I was like, you're right. You're right. Fucking, it's just money. Boom. He's like, I got more for you. I was like, all right, if you say so. So I was like, you know what? Let me just start training again because I was out of shape. Stress makes you fat. Like, let me tell you, I was not up to the heaviest I was, but I was like 207, which for me is pretty big. And that's, because the gym was getting all fucked up and I just, whatever. So, oh man, fucking cock. All right. So, so I just started training again. And then like 3 months after I started training, I did the North American trial championships and I won. I was like, oh, maybe I should do some more shit. And I started sparring again. And I was like, listen, I want to start fighting again. And they're like, all right, well, let's see what happens. And after about a year, I wind up getting a call to fight in Bellator, the biggest show I've ever fought in, bigger than what I ever did in my first career. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, all right, I'll fight at 155 the weight I used to. The sport did change. Guys cut mad weight now.
yeah,
55 was the lowest we could go back in the day. So I fought at Bellator, my first fight back in 10 years. That actually to me is more impressive to me than fighting at the Garden. Because when I won at Madison Square Garden, I knew I'd be able to do stuff in the fight. But when I fought the first one back after 10 years, I remember thinking to myself, am I going to be able to actually throw a punch? Or am I going to be so rusty that I dry fire? You've seen this happen.
mm-hmm.
No, I fucking cracked the dude, fucking take him down. And this dude's like a fucking wrestler since he's 6 years old. Actually, no, let me back this up. That's not how it happened. This is how it happened. First, we come out and he breaks my elbow with a kick, but I don't notice this. So loud, fucking cracks my elbow, right? So I picked his timing up on the kick when he did that, but I didn't notice my elbow, right? You know how fights go. You don't feel shit.
No, you don't feel anything at all.
Boom, fucking elbow breaks. I was like, oh, I picked up his timing. He throws the kick again, bam, bang, and I fucking crack and I take him down. And I'm on top now. And I'm a fucking black belt in jiu-jitsu, right? Fuck all that 10 years. Now I'm on top and I'm like, oh, motherfucker, it is on. And I remember Ray Long goes in my corner and he's like, holy shit, Manimal's going to win this fight. And I'm fucking this dude off. I'm throwing elbows. And man, I don't know what happened, but that shit just got away. And you know what? I got cocky. I remember thinking to myself, swear to God, in the middle of Mohegan Sun, 10,000 people, I'm fucking elbowing this dude. And I remember thinking, Manimal, you are so fucking good. Look at you.
You remember thinking that in the moment in the fight?
Yes, I remember thinking
that.
it. I was thinking, and then I got reversed. Then I got cut. Then I bleeding in my eye, and that was the end of that. It was good till it wasn't. So
How did can you tell me how the fight ended? Like, can you slow that one down for me and give me the slow?
yeah, I
replay?
tell you what, I thought I got hit with an uppercut, but it wasn't. I got hit with a kick that cut the eye and just fucking. That was it. It was like,
Good seeing it.
he cut it with an uppercut first. He had hit it with the corner of the glove.
Mm,
I cut my eye right here.
mhm.
And that made me rush because I was like, fuck, I got to finish this guy quick. This eye's going to get real bad real soon because it was already bad.
Mhm.
And and every time I would catch him with the right, he was countering with the uppercut, busting that fucking eye up. I think I got some pictures you could see like my face the next day.
I'd love to see those if you want to share them later.
Yeah. I tell you, I know I lost that fight, but I'm very proud that I
Mhm.
was able to even just get to do stuff. I know it sounds weird, but like, imagine like another sport, an NFL player, 10 years he hasn't played. He's been chilling, living a regular life. And then he comes out at the Super Bowl and he does okay. You know,
Yeah.
he's like, wow, impressive, so yeah. And then, my wife's like, Sheg, did you get that out of your system? I was like, actually, immediately, what am I thinking? I got to drop to 45. Immediately. Huh?
I said you're thinking you need another fight, but I missed what you said.
Immediately I'm thinking I got to drop to 145 because I realized that 155 guys that I used they're just too big. They cut too much weight. Like at the day of the fight, I was 162 and he was like 181, so big difference as far as absorbing impact, taking impact. I have this argument a lot with people, and I believe what Gorilla Monsoon says. Equally skilled, the good big guy will beat the good little guy. And one of my friends was like, no, but the force generation and this, the smaller person isn't going to use as much. I was like, I understand what you're saying. I was like, but run this shit in the gym 1,000 times and let's see how it goes. Get two guys equally ranked, run it in the gym 1,000 times. Just go to the lab. I don't care about your fucking paperwork. Go to the lab. The lab will tell you what I've seen in the lab, that when that good big guy wants to be, listen, don't get me wrong, I fuck up a lot of big guys, but there's reasons for that. I'm better than them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm fucking better than them. I'm more skilled. That's why I beat them.
Yeah.
If we were equally skilled, I don't think so.
No.
Right? I mean, that's just how I feel. Like if I could fight myself 20 pounds more jacked, I'd fuck myself up. Every time I hit myself, I'd be cracking myself. Especially if I trained away to, if I was doing a lot of like, let's say Olympic lifting, so I'm fast, I'm not going to be, and I even feel it in training now. When I roll with the same guy, when I'm 20 pounds heavier, I crush that dude.
Yeah.
I even feel it when I have if it's good weight, if it's shitty weight, but I know how to train. I'm jacked.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I actually, for one of the first times last night, trained with somebody who's relatively new. He's like 17. In terms of strength, he's much stronger than I am. And it was like all technique. Like I wasn't the poster child spazzy quintessential white belt anymore. Like I was like, oh, I can actually control this fight, and like the technique works. You just have to work the technique. All the things my coach has been telling me for 2 years. And super cool and wild to watch him like just try so hard, like out of breath, sweaty, and I'm just like calmly like doing what I've been training and learning. Very amazing moment to, like I've seen it a lot where we have a female black belt who teaches on our team. She's tiny. She's like 120 maybe or 130. I don't know.
That's how ours is. We have a female black belt also like 120. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love watching her. Yeah, I would love
And
to
she's
ask
great.
you. Pardon me?
I said, the black belt girl we have also great skills. It is nice to watch him work because that's how you know jiu-jitsu works.
Yeah. Well,
You
and
know,
she helped me a lot with like the first 6 months that I trained. I was the only girl on our team. It was all guys. And I spent so much time in bottom side control. Like I was like, it was like my home. Like I was like, oh hi, here we are again. And my coach, who we were probably similar in weight, but he's a guy, so his weight distribution is totally different. He would like, teach me all the escapes and I would get good at it. And then maybe like a year and a half later, she came in and joined our team and, taught escapes that work very differently when your upper body is small and you have more power in your legs. So fascinating world. We could totally get into all the different amazing aspects of jujitsu. But
the thing about jujitsu, I will say, is what you just said. The variety of the same technique for a different individual. So jujitsu, I think more than any other style, you can really fit your personality into it. You could take 1,000 guys and everyone can have a different style. Whereas if I watch a Muay Thai fight, their differentiation is of, small margins. Whereas the differentiation in jujitsu techniques can be so vast. I mean, you can have someone who just plays like a wrestling game, wrestle, pass, side control, boom.
yeah,
And then you have the guy that's the total opposite, leg locks and boom, and then everything in between these guys. And it lends itself both to personality, size, the best of any martial art to me. I'm a 3rd-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, so of course I always have to back my art. That's where I live and die. So I'm biased. However, the shit works. And like you said about having the ladies train and be able to do well against, and they're going hard.
yeah.
If that happens in sparring, right?
No,
If I went 100%,
no,
but
I trained.
that kid is going hard. He's
Yeah,
really giving you a hard feel. He's going as hard as he can to not get finished.
yeah,
And it shows you the technique works and you're using technique he is not using.
totally. And that's the only difference. Like when I was rolling with him last night, I was like, man, as soon as he learns all my techniques that I know, I'm hooked. And like he's gonna crush it. And I invited him to come train Muay Thai with us because we train 1 day a week Muay Thai. And like you said, like Muay Thai is like totally different game for me. Like I'm like absolute beginner in that world at this point, but different margin. And I love that aspect of jiu-jitsu that's like the creativity or like understanding that it's this infinite world, but that you can have your style and your path and your plan that's like, where you're going and then build from there. But yeah, it's an incredible.
That's why if I'm not doing MMA, I've been enjoying getting high before jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because I could kind of be creative, open my game up a little bit, play a style I normally wouldn't. But if I have to train with strikes, then I usually don't.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a different level of intensity. I could be creative, but it's different. I don't want you to punch me in the face when I'm high. I could grapple. You could sweat on me, but don't punch me.
No. I've been training most of this time, like in the last 2 years. I've had a concussion for like a year and a half off and on. I had 2 in that time. And that has added this element of,
not from jiu-jitsu though, right? Was it from jiu-jitsu?
It was from warming up in jiu-jitsu. Both times, same training. Warming up. So the first one I was doing shrimps and I got to class and I was like we did this really, at that point we were doing like a half an hour. Our classes are 2 hours long. We were doing a half an hour, like really physical warm up, which I love. And I got to class that day and I was like, I'm going to do the most powerful, tight, sharp, fast shrimps of my life. We always do 4 rounds of shrimping backwards. And so that was my intention. And we got going and I was just like, like power shrimping. And I shrimped my forehead right into my friend's knee. And he was like later, he was like, yeah, I saw you coming and you were moving really fast, but I didn't really think to get out of the way. And like, it was bad. Like I knew I was badly concussed. I finished the class, of course, because I was like, I'm still gonna like beat some people up here. I took like 3 days off, went back to training and just like
pure embarrassment made you finish that class.
No, I wasn't embarrassed. I just really liked jujitsu. I was like, but the same guy, like who's a really good friend of mine, maybe like 9 months later, we were just drilling guard passes and same thing, like his knee, my forehead, like it's like a joke. Everybody's like, maybe you guys shouldn't roll together. But anyways, yeah.
Well, that sucks.
It's
But
all right.
I'll tell you what, I did some concussion research work with Hofstra. It's a Hofstra College by me. And
Okay.
they said 2 grams of creatine a day shows a lot of benefits for helping to, reduce future concussions and also recover from concussions. And
Cover
then
that.
really sleep. They said whatever you can do to get the best amount of sleep helps concussions, and then just time away from head injury.
Yeah.
So I
Well, and
was,
that's to bring it back to the world of jujitsu. What I just wanted to share with you, because it'll lead me into my next question for you, is like I remember at one point my coach saying to me, "Don't take this the wrong way, but your head injury has massively improved the skills overall of our team because everyone has learned to train in a more precise way because we're all trying to not hit your head." And I was like, "You're welcome." you know, but it's been a fascinating thing to be in an environment where there's that level of like trust, precision, and for me, like like sometimes when whoever's coaching will look at me and be like, "Hey, are you doing takedowns today? Like, where are you at with concussion?" It's like a fascinating thing. But yeah, so if I can ask my next question for you, as a coach, as a teacher, because you run a school right now, right?
I teach, I don't run a school.
Okay, I got you.
You know, I'll see what the gods want to do with me.
Yeah,
They'll put me where I need to be when I need to be there. I don't want to really overthink it because I'm always thinking about, what to do next and where to put my energy, but I don't know
yeah,
where to put my energy when I'm supposed to. Right now, I'm just enjoying the journey. Plus, I want to do the world championships in jujitsu.
yeah,
Um, I'm going to win the world championships as a black belt.
yeah.
So, so that's taking time, right? I'm training hard.
Training for that. Yeah. When is that happening?
Oh, the regular worlds is May 31st, June 1st. It spans like 4 days. So let's just call it June 1st. And then Masters World September 1st. If I could hit both, that'd be great. But it takes some time to get your black belt registration approved. I haven't done an IBJJF tournament in 20 years. So that's right on par for me to win it.
This is amazing, John.
So
I'm
yeah,
so
so 20
happy we're
years, I think that's enough time for me to win it. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, I haven't done it in 20 years. I think now I could. I think I know what I want to do here."
that's
Oh, and
incredible.
that's what happened. So wait, can I finish the loop? Can I finish the story arc of the garden?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Finish that one.
So I lose that fight at Bellator, right? I'm like, I want to drop to 145. I'm supposed to fight a bunch of times, but they keep falling through. So it comes to like 18 months from that fight. And I had to take like 2 months off to heal from my injuries. But once I did, I was back in the gym. I was like, I want to go again. There was a fight in Nassau Coliseum that I tried to get on. They couldn't get the right opponent. Then there was one February. My fight in the garden was in June of 2019. February 2019, I'm supposed to fight at Mohegan Sun. And the day of the weigh-ins, the guy fucking pulls out. I already made 45. So then I knew I could make 45. I was like, all right, I made 45 first time out. I was like, all right, I can make 45. He pulled out. Shit. All right, well, boom. All right. April, they put up that they're doing a fight at Madison Square Garden, Bellator. I was like, oh shit. Call my manager. I was like, dude, get me on that. Whatever we gotta do, I'll sell the fuck out of it. It's always been my dream since I'm a little kid to perform in the garden. Like I used to love pro wrestling, so I always wanted to do that, but this is way better. So I was like, oh, I've always wanted to, perform in the garden. I was like, oh, you got to make this shit happen. And they gave me an opponent, and a fair opponent, and I was like, oh shit. And I trained, had a good 8-week camp, and everything just came together perfect. 18 months from that fight, all the training, all the support, everyone seen me putting the work in. It just was a really special time in my life, and everything came out right. I asked the gods. I was like, I was like, whatever you need to do with me. I was like, but I was like, I'm just doing it for the love of the game. And actually, the universe did give me a small test before they gave me the fight at the garden. I started training actually even before 8 weeks because I was going to fight at a different show. So the fights with Bellator were all falling through. So I told my manager, I was like, bro, I was like, I just want to, I really would just like to get a fight in. I've been training all this time. And the gods were like, oh, am I doing it for glory? Because if I was, I would only want to fight for Bellator, a big show. And a small show had called me and they gave me an opponent that was fair. I was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's go. And literally after I accepted that fight and signed the contract, the next day Bellator was like, we got the Garden fight for you. And I called that promotion, was like, dude, they're like, yeah, no problem. They're like, yeah, we understand. And, I prayed to Odin. I was like, I think we ironed all this out. And I was like, for the victory of the Garden, I'll praise you endlessly, which I have been doing. And everything worked out. I called out, and at the Garden, I don't know if you see, first of all, I turned my showmanship up to level 25. I was just like, I came out in a leopard print suit at the weigh-ins, like the Manimal, right? Leopard print,
Yep.
full suit, 3-piece suit, leopard print. Everyone was hating. Then at the Garden, and I'm the son of Odin, right? So I came out with Thor's hammer, and what other pagan can say that in front of 20,000 people, they called out to Odin, right? And it felt so powerful. I was like, yes. I was complete for that, actually, because I had a big problem to get the hammer in. So we're backstage and I got the hammer in my head, right? I got Mjolnir, and they're like, what the fuck is that? Have you ever been backstage at a pro fight?
No, not yet. I'm sure.
Okay, so what happens is when you're at the fight, once you get there at a big show, they're like, this is the athletic commissioner who's assigned to you. He follows you around the whole night until the end of the fight when the doctor checks you. So from when you get there to when the doctor checks you at the end of the fight, this guy's on your ass. He watches you pee, he watches you shit, he watches you do everything, right? Watches you wrap your hand. He watches you that whole night.
Yeah.
I'm there with the hammer, and he's like, what is that? I was like, Mjolnir. And he's like, yeah. I was like, I want to come out with it. I was like, it's fucking Bellator. It's not UFC. I want to come out with a hammer. He goes on his walkie-talkie. He's like, Beneduce has a toy hammer he wants to come out with. And I was like, motherfucker. I was like, what'd you say? I was like, it's a religious symbol. And then you see the guy roll his eyes, and he's like, Beneduce says it's a religious symbol. And the guy comes back. He's like, whatever. They were like, we're not getting into it. It is a religious symbol. I'm as pious to my deities as anyone is pious. So whatever my gods tell me to do, we do the fucking thing. And there's a lot of insight for this. I don't know if you're familiar with Norse mythology, but there's a ton of literature that you could see. And then actually tonight, big ritual night tonight. Today is Imbolc. Do you follow any of the old ways?
A little bit, but not like to the extent that you're describing. I used to run a theater company with a friend, and we did a play that had Odin and Set and Loki, and so that I think most of my understanding or grasp of that. And I would love to hear more about your personal, what's from this philosophy or from the Nordic mythology. What helps you the most to perform as optimally as you'd like to, as both a fighter, but just also moving through your life? If there's something that you'd like to share that might benefit our listeners today.
So Odin is at his essence the god of transformational experiences. Mm-hmm. Through that vehicle, he winds up getting a bunch of domains, right? He's the god of war, the god of poetry, the god of magic, the god of life and death, the most transformational experiences, right? Life and death, incredibly transformative. We even had a conversation about that, me and Odin, and he told me I was missing the point on that. And I was like, you're right. Because I do a lot of work with astral projection, putting your consciousness into your astral body. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to get so good at this that when I die, I'll just switch over. And Odin was like, you're kind of missing the point here. And I was like, oh, fuck, you're right. I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, you're so right. I was like, what am I doing? I was like, you're right. I am missing the point here. I'm supposed to just fucking do the thing. I was like, my bad. Wow. What if when I die, something's supposed to happen with my spirit that I'm not supposed to consciously control, and then I do and fuck it up? I was like, you're right. My bad.
Yeah, you don't get to control the initiation of birth or death or
Yeah.
fighting.
Yeah. So Odin was like, no. He was like, you're kind of missing the point here. I was like, all right, you're right. Fair enough. So that was actually the best revelation I could give any listener,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Trying to control the process of death is actually, and I always tell my wife this because I'm reckless, right? And she's, oh, this, you could die, this, of course. When I was born, I tell her, the fates weave the thread of my life, and there is nothing I can do to avoid anything there as far as when your lifespan begins and ends. If you believe in that, then how could I live any other way than the way I live? So when you're like, how does that affect my life? It is my life. So that's, even though piety is a quality I have, it's just the foundation of everything I do. And while my God is a little wild, it makes sense because so am I. So as the God of transformational experiences is very helpful, especially since all the transformational experiences I've undergone in my life and going through those things, it is pretty helpful. Even the end transformational experience. Well, what you think is the end? Because not really. Although I don't think so. And if it is, who cares? You won't know.
You won't know. You don't get to know. You have to go in blind.
You won't know. So who cares?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't know how the fight's going to go either. Like you said about fighting. Fighting is one of the most transformational experiences ever. Fighting, having combat is so transformational. I think of it like if every person is like a planet. When you have a fight, it's like planets collide, and one planet could get crushed. It could veer you off course. All types of things can happen in that massive energetic exchange. I have psychedelic experiences all the time. And let me tell you, fighting is incredibly psychedelic. That fight at the garden, hold on. That whole fight, I tripped balls. So sober, right? Can't do no drugs. So this is just a sober experience in an elevated consciousness. Feel the fabric of the canvas on your toe. I can't feel that normally, but I felt the fabric of the canvas. And this is going to sound the craziest thing. There was one point, I'm on top of my opponent in his corner, right? His corner is giving him instructions, and I'm fucking him up. And at one point, I almost had an energetic exchange of consciousness transference with my opponent. And then back to me on top, him on bottom, and then me on top. So that's how, but I am also already at the edge state of natural psychedelic experience without any drugs from doing all the spiritual work and just being a wild motherfucker. And Odin, so my God is the God of magic also, and the God of the runes. So being a practitioner of the Odinic path means that you have to work with all different types of occult spiritual practices, the runes being the basis of it, because Odin finds the runes. So self-sacrifice, also incredibly powerful as a transformational experience, and all these initiation processes. So Odin gives us, what do we got? Do we got a little bit? Can I tell a little?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a little bit, if you don't mind. So, so Odin has three major things as part of his mythology. The first thing, the first quest that he undergoes to gain wisdom is that he hangs himself on the world tree Yggdrasil. So if you think of this as the cosmic web that goes through all dimensions, through all planes of existence, he sacrifices himself. This is where a lot of Jesus mythology comes from. Cuts himself with a spear, hangs upside down on the tree, 9 days and 9 nights, no bread, no water, nothing, right? On the 9th night, he has like that death experience. And when he dies, he sees the runes, the symbols of power that underlie all of the Proto-Indo-European language. English, Proto-Indo-European language, the Latin language, all our letters are runes. So he gets the runes and brings them back for the sons of men. But each rune is a bunch of things. It's a letter, because speech is so important. We're doing a podcast. There would be no way for me to communicate my information without words, sounds. Sound magic also important. So he gets the runes, gives them to the people of the Proto-Indo-European. You probably put Odin historically. I like where Snorri Sturluson puts him. He puts him as a Trojan prince, and I like that personally. because it would fit nicely as a physical incarnation. Because if you're thinking about the oversoul, that has no time limit. So once you become a deity, you can then pop out of time.
Yeah.
So like if you're physical, once you become a deity, you can then pop out of the linear time loop, is how I understand it from what Odin tries to explain through his mythology. So that's how I like to put him. So Odin, right, travels to probably Norway, right, the North Pole, probably travels to the North Pole because he says himself that he practiced another form of magic called seed on Samsi, the Samsi people being the Finnish shamans. So he would practice shamanism with the Finnish people. So he had to get up there, and probably around there, he would have then undergone this sacrifice where he would have got the runes. And practicing seed is actually a feminine art. So he practiced both shamanism and an art that you would consider feminine, which he gets a knock for by Loki, but it doesn't really matter. You have to do it. So all those occult practices, very powerful, and those spiritual practices. So Odin hangs himself on a tree, he gets the runes. Then there's a well, a sacred well, Mimir's well. And Mimir's well, if you put something in it from you make a sacrifice, whatever you put in it, you will have access to that throughout all the worlds. Heimdall, the god of protection, essentially, he puts his ear in the well, so he can hear in all the worlds. Odin sacrifices his eye for a drink of the enchanted water, and then he can see in all the worlds. So the next thing he does is he sees where the meat of poetry is. Odrerir. And Odrerir is being kept by this giant Suttung. So Odin's like, all right. Odin can accomplish things, and this is how I like to think of myself. Odin can accomplish things no other deity can accomplish. If you think of a god like Thor, Thor cannot get the magic meat. He can't just barge in and fucking smash guys and get the magic meat. It's held by Suttung. Suttung's a powerful giant, right? With an army. You can't just, and his daughter, a powerful giantess, Gunlud, guards the meat of poetry in a cave. So first you got to get through his hole. She's in a cave guarding this meat. So Odin's like, okay, there's a roundabout way he has to get to the mead. He goes to the giant Suttung's brother, and that brother has a bunch of slaves working the field. And Odin goes to the slave, and he's like, oh, let me see your scythe. He sharpens the scythe, and he gives it back. And when he uses the scythe, the slave cuts all the grass down around him. And everyone's like, I want that whetstone. He's like, here, take it. And he throws it in the air, and they kill themselves. They all kill each other to get the stone. And everyone's dead. So all the slaves are dead. So Odin goes to the hole, and he sees the giant Suttung's brother, and he's like, I saw all your workers are dead. He's like, I'll do the work of 9 men. He's like, for a year. He's like, I just want to come to the feast of your brother. He's like, yeah, sure. No one could do the work of 9 men. Well, of course, Odin could do the work of 9 men. He goes, he works for a year. He does the work. He works the whole thing for a year. Odin spends the year, works the year. He's like, all right, I told you to take me to Suttung's hole. They get to Suttung's hole. He's like, now I need you to drill a hole in the mountain so I could go in. He's like, okay, I will. He drills a hole in the mountain. He's like, all right, go ahead. Odin's like, no. He blows in the hole, and the dust comes out. He's like, you didn't go all the way through. Giant's like, all right. He drills the whole way through. Odin turns into a snake and goes in the hole. The guy tries to get him. Boom. He's in the cavern. He sees Gunlud. Turns back into himself. He's like, yo, what's up, baby? He's like, he can't beat her. She's like this magical creature. So, of course, what does Odin do? Bangs the shit out of her for 3 days. Boom. 3 days. Boom. Makes her fall in love with him. Steals the fucking meat. Runs out the front door. Suttung turns into an eagle to chase him. He turns into an eagle, swallows the mead. When he's running back to Asgard, whatever spills from his mouth onto the earth, that's the poet share. That's what we get. And he takes the mead of poetry back to Asgard. So,
what an incredible story.
So, but no other god. So think about it, and no other deity, right? He thinks to the 3rd level. To get to this guy, I gotta do this, gotta do this, I gotta do this. So he has a thought process. And that's the way I thought about the garden. He was like, yo, Manimal, listen, I couldn't get you to the garden if you went straight through. And I'm gonna tell you why, Veronica. MMA did not become legal in New York until 2016. I turned pro first in 2003. All my boys retired in 2013. I would have never got to fight in the garden if I would have went straight through. So that 10-year layoff put me right where I needed to be to accomplish exactly what I needed to do.
Amazing.
So that's how I feel about the gods.
Yeah, I love that Odin is the one that speaks to you, because even just the story you just told, it's like it's describes mastery in so many different realms of like, okay, here I'm gonna use this area, even like the art of seduction to get the outcome that he needed to get. You know, I love that.
He's not averse to all different aspects. We call Odin
whatever it takes, right? Whatever it
many
takes.
faces. By no one name was I ever known among man, and that's why you have to be careful too. So, if in the mythology, the All Father a lot, and that's why I think a lot of the Christian stuff that, I mean, whatever, I feel it's very borrowed. They say our Father, All Father, probably a similar deity that they're worshiping, to be fair. However, the cutting with the spear, I don't know, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it's a common motif. You know what? Let me back this up. There's actually common things that we got to take from everyone's sacrifice story. So the ritual mutilation, extremely important. I know that sounds weird, but it is. That's what fighting has in it built in. Ritual mutilation, a separation from others, a fasting practice. I'm fasting today, except for my water and coffee, black coffee, no calories, hopefully. But I mean, Imbolc's a good day to celebrate, but not the biggest one. So I'm fasting today. Fasting, an important practice for that spiritual separation from the body. And Odin embodies all these characteristics, like no stone unturned when it comes to gaining wisdom, experience. If you want to get to 20th level and beyond, I don't know if you ever played Dungeons and Dragons, but 20th level is essentially when you're like epic. Like when you get to 20th level, you're the fucking man. You're like, who'd be 20th level? Gilgamesh, Beowulf, I guess. Like, you know, these ancient heroes. Is Odysseus 20th level? Probably not. He's probably only 17th. Achilles, not even. You know, to get to 20th level, that's almost a deity. So if you want to do that, and then Odin is like 100th level, right? He has to keep gaining experience. And you know this, the better you get, the harder it is to gain XP. It's hard to get experience when you're really good at something. Mm-hmm. He's always pushing the envelope. Even his last sacrifice, we'll end on this note. So Odin also knows that in order for the world to turn out in a positive way, he has to sacrifice his own energy permanently and die completely. At Ragnarok, the god wolf Fenris swallows Odin, and then his son Vidar essentially goes inside the wolf and destroys him from the inside out. A powerful motif here about how to defeat the undefeatable creature from the inside, right? How do you and what happens is all that energy becomes transformed. Odin has to sacrifice his energy to the wolf Fenrir, who then has to all sacrifice that energy into the earth to make a new earth. And all the gods at Ragnarok, are you familiar with Ragnarok? The Viking apocalypse. Yeah. So at Ragnarok, all the gods and titans and giants, right, and monsters kill each other, most of them anyway, and all that energetic release gets used to transform into a new world, right, an elevated world. So Odin knows that he can't stay around. He's an old god. He knows this. The new gods have to take over, and he's willing to sacrifice himself. He knows Fenris is going to eat him. He could just stay home, right? He could stay home. He could do what he told Vidar to do. He told Vidar how to beat the wolf from a kid, you know, so he could have did that. But no, he knows what he has to do. He has to sacrifice himself permanently without coming back as that form and spreading his essence out into the other ones so that his son, the purified form of Odin, without all the crazy shit Odin had to do, Baldur, the most beautiful, comes back from the underworld and rules the gods from them. Odin's not like Baldur, right? But Baldur is the graceful god that you kind of want to rule, but you can't have Baldur unless Odin does all this to get Baldur back out of the underworld.
It's a very different, like archetypal father-son story than a lot of other, like the elements of what you just described. Yeah, very different than.
The father-son story. Yeah. That's why
Yeah.
we call him the All Father. He
Mhm.
sacrifices for his children.
Yeah.
And I say all warriors are the sons of Odin. So when Odin sacrifices himself on the tree of Drasil, when he cuts himself, the blood that spills to the earth, the spiritual essence of that, seeps into the earth. And from that, are born the sons of Odin. So it's like a spiritual thing, right? Like, I don't know if you ever read Gilgamesh, how he says he's like 2/3 of God. There's something about how deities will enter humans and somehow, right, affect the birth of the child through their divine spirit going into possessing one of them. That's how Gilgamesh is like 2/3 of God. There's three
Yes.
people: the god, the goddess, who's his mother, and then the dude. And so they consider him 2/3 of God. They're like, there's two gods there: the god mother and the god that went in you is 2/3 of God. So,
Yes.
um,
For your upcoming fight, what will you be bringing with like everything we were just talking about right now? What will you be bringing into that fight from this? And
well, this is a little different. There's a jujitsu competition is a little different.
yeah,
Not as big a stage, not as much of a place to show, multiple fights, multiple things, but not as intense. No one's getting hit, no one's getting kicked, no one's getting elbowed. So not as intensive an affair, but could be a more difficult affair. Different opponents, all different styles, fighting, you get to train for one person. So my approach for that, man, I'm just enjoying it. You have to. I was a little too. You know what? My weight cut messed me up at my combat jujitsu thing, so that made me a little feel like shit. So I don't know if I was being too serious or if I just felt like shit. Hard to tell, but I do want to, show my love of combat when I go out. So I want to make sure I share the joy of battle every time I'm out there. I was a little sick feeling my last one, so this time no weight cut because it's right on the mat weigh-in. So I'm looking to just show the joy of battle. That's the whole point. You're supposed to be happy for it.
yes, yeah, because it's a privilege to get to do it.
Oh, thank the gods. At my age and all the shit I've been through, I could have not been here. So everything I get to do is a bonus. When I almost killed myself, Odin said he was like, just imagine you did, and then just boom, 0, day 0.
Yes.
I think this is day 0, and I did.
You're in the bonus round. You're in the bonus
This is
round.
the bonus rounds. Yeah, so I tell myself, I was like, we're already in the bonus rounds. I'm not even supposed to be here right now. So I'm in the bonus rounds, and it's been endlessly exciting.
Yes.
Veronica,
John,
been
thank you so much for doing this with me today, and this is really an honor. Thank you.
Whenever you want to do it, I love to talk. So
yeah, absolutely.
Have fun training. Let me know when you get your blue belt.
Okay, I will for sure. Absolutely. All the best to you.